wanted to start off by talking to you. I know that you had, fought Bart Pierre. I believe that was your last fight, right? And
Yeah, that was my
um,
last one.
you finished Bart, and then we kind of have gone into this quarantine. And when I messaged you about even joining MMA Company in the first place, one of the first things that you said was that you had watched, my fight with Bart when you were getting ready for him. Is that something that you typically do with fights that you have, try to research and find, film and whatnot on your opponents?
Yeah, every time I get a matchup, I'll do a Google search, do a YouTube search, even look on Facebook, Instagram, see if I can find anything that'll help me, any patterns I can exploit. So I was lucky that Bart had, I think, pretty much all his fights on YouTube, and I could just rewatch all of them.
Yeah, I know some guys, they like to watch their opponents. Other guys don't. I'm kind of in the middle with watching film on guys, just because I've had so many fights fall through. And then I've also, put a camp together where I've trained specifically for someone, and then they fell through and I didn't do well because of building those patterns that you're talking about. Have you had any experience with that so far, in your career with, training for someone and then having a short notice opponent?
No, Bart was actually the first person I could really find footage for. So before I was really just winging it and just kind of prepared for whatever. So Bart was the first opponent I could actually find fight footage on and make a game plan kind of.
Gotcha. It's funny, as you start coming up through, it's always like your first couple fights, you just can't find a whole lot on guys. And it's whether
Yeah.
they, just haven't fought yet, or whether they, fought for a promotion. Like I know like Maverick and some other promotions, they're not really up there online to find footage of them. And then as you start gaining more experience and your opponents gain more experience, you're like, oh, there's a fight of him on YouTube, or, oh, I can find this, or oh, I can find that. And it becomes a little more easy to game plan for them. So you're kind of at that stage now where I think moving forward, you'll at least find something on someone, whether it's a highlight or what have you.
Yep,
And
exactly.
then,
And I like to study films, so that works for me.
good. And do you, outside of studying your opponents, are there any fighters that you like to model your game after? Anyone you like to watch just on, Fight Pass clips or what have you?
Oh yeah, big time. I would say Israel Adesanya is probably my number one guy. I like guys like that, like Stephen Thompson, TJ Dillashaw. I like this kid, Cody Sandhagen.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of like strikers, stance changers. That's kind of my style. I haven't gotten to show that really because most of my fights have been going to the ground, but that's kind of what I'm looking to emulate.
Gotcha. That's really indicative of, Pennsylvania and the region in general. I think is most amateur and even pro fights, they're not really stand-up technical fights. We have
Yep.
every wrestler and their cousin, fight in amateur MMA here in Pennsylvania, and they want to, punch, shoot, and get to the ground.
Yep.
Now, what are you doing in terms of, knowing that, somebody's probably going to shoot on you, in terms of footwork and whatnot? Are you more okay with getting taken down, or are you more training towards, stuffing the takedown, coming out on top, and then striking off of that?
I would say a mixture of all the above. I've pretty much built my game to be almost anti-wrestling. So like intercepting with knees and uppercuts, front headlock chokes if I can get the front headlock, and a lot of footwork, angular movement to make it hard to catch me, basically.
Gotcha. And, the rule sets for different fighters, some are helpful early on, and then other times you're a little inhibited just by the rule sets that you're fighting at. Now, you being one of those strikers that wants to use your range, your angles, those knees, uppercuts, things like that, are you looking forward to having the longer rounds and the rule sets that lend you the ability to throw those knees when somebody shoots, or the elbows or things like that right now you just can't do?
Yep, like 100%. That's I'm looking to make my pro debut and definitely looking forward to the 5-minute round. So if I do end up getting taken down, I can at least work my jiu-jitsu or work my way back to my feet to get it back to where I want it.
Gotcha. And the jujitsu that you're working, I'm always a firm believer of unless you have one of the slickest guards in the game, right? I think that you should be working to get up instead of working those submissions off your back. I do when I'm in a camp and just when I'm training MMA in general. A lot of what I do is wall work, right? Get up, get up, get up, or have the ability to get somebody down and hold them there. So when you're training and you're ready for one of your fights and you're in camp, what kind of drills are you doing to emulate that wrestler heavy pressure and then be able to get back to your feet and use your striking to your advantage?
Really, a lot of wall work, like you said, with bigger, better wrestlers trying to hold me down, take me down, and me just trying to get back to my feet, starting out in bad positions, fighting out of it. So most of the MMA work I do is wall work and groundwork, and working on just that, fighting off takedowns and getting back to my feet.
And what is your background in? Because I know you said you study some of those more. I don't want to call them traditional because Adesanya is anything but a traditional striker. But they have more of that traditional karate or kickboxing background. Where did you get your start in mixed martial arts and martial arts in general?
I started when I was 16, my junior year of high school. I started wrestling because I knew I wanted to fight. So I started wrestling. I wasn't very good, but I got that base in there a little bit. Then I started with MMA my senior year. So I trained for a couple of years, had my first fight, and then I actually took off of competing for 6 years before I got back into it.
Oh, really? And what were you doing during that time, during that 6-year layoff?
So I took off a few years. I got a full-time job, and I thought, I'm going to move on with my life and try to be a grown adult or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I realized that wasn't for me, so got back into it. And when I was trying to make my comeback, it was just a series of injuries, one after the other, that held me up even longer. But now I'm healthy, and I'm on a 3-fight win streak and ready to make my pro debut.
Is that what you have planned next? Is that pro debut?
Yeah, 100%. I was supposed to do it on May 16th, but COVID-19 happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think mine was going to be the 9th was my next fight I had lined up, and same thing happened to me. Did you have a contract signed and everything lined up?
Nothing was signed, but I had been in talks with CFFC, and my coach was pretty much telling me it was a done deal.
Gotcha. And I think you fought Bart for CFFC, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep,
And
that's right.
have you fought for other promotions as well, or was it just strictly CFFC coming up through?
Yeah, I fought for it was like an Art of War CES card,
Mm-hmm.
and I fought for Maverick, and then my first fight was for this promotion called XFE. I don't know if you remember those.
That was my first fight too.
Really?
Yeah, I fought for Dave Feldman out at the Sands Casino.
Or is that at AC?
No, it's in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Yeah, so I fought for XFE. I think it was my first 2 or 3 fights. And then, been with, it was WCC and then Art of War, and, had a couple different options, coming up through, but, those guys always treat me well. But all those promotions that you're fighting for too, they put out some of the best fighters in the region, especially CFFC.
Oh, yeah.
Every fight card, it looks like lately there's been, UFC fighters that have a history fighting in the CFFC. I think the last 5-6 cards I see, Arias Garcia post in, good luck to CFFC vet in this fight or that fight. So I want to talk to you a little bit about fighting for CFFC and what it's like really being on that stage, because you're surrounded in the locker room at weigh-ins, things like that, by guys who are really on the cusp of, that stage as big as it gets, right? There it goes CFFC, and then you might go Bellator, PFL, and then UFC. So what's it like being surrounded, by that top caliber fighter in all of those different things, and how's that affect your preparation and going into the fights?
Yeah, I feel at home there. That's kind of always where I wanted to go towards with CFFC, because like you said, I see that pathway from the CFFC to the UFC. So to me, I feel like I belong there, and I kind of just want to prove now that I belong there by going out there and smashing somebody.
And, you know, something that I don't think a lot of people, I, I don't want to say casual fans, but fans that may only like MMA because they come to watch you fight, is that the CFFC cage is huge, right? Compared to like if you fight for an Artivore or a Maverick. So for
Yeah.
you, someone who wants to use those angles and use that striking, that really plays into your advantage.
Yeah, 100%. That's one thing I noticed right away fighting for CFFC was the size of the cage. And me, I like footwork. I like cutting angles, so that's perfect for me.
What kind of footwork drills do you do now that, you know, we're kind of, you know, some people are training, some people are not, some people are just hitting pads with one person or what have you. You know, what are those footwork drills that you're doing to stay crisp?
A lot of shadow boxing and just like, throw a combination angle out to the right, throw a combination angle out to the left, and then look for a counter. Like just little stuff like that. So I make sure every time, basically anytime I'm throwing something, I'm doing something defensively after it. Usually cutting an angle and then visualizing a counter from there.
Got you. And, you know, as being someone who is using that striking and that footwork, um, I always try to tell people how difficult it actually is to fight moving backwards, right? I always want to have heavy pressure forward because when we're training, we're always hitting pads, we're moving forward, moving forward. Um, and when you have someone that's always in your face, you're using a whole different muscle set, right? Going backwards, angling off to one side, off to the other side. Do you train, you know, moving forward and moving backward when you're striking in case you get somebody that's that real heavy pressure, that wrestler that's just drive, drive, drive?
Yeah, for sure. That's a lot of it too. Is like I want to be able to strike going forwards. I want to be able to pressure when I have to, and then be able to take my foot off the gas and strike going backwards if I have to as well. So I kind of started out wanting to be like a back foot dance around counter fighter, and I kind of now I'm going more towards pressure, but also being able to step back and counter if I have to. Kind of like Conor McGregor, like
Mm-hmm.
you see him always going forward, but when you decide to put the gas on, he'll step back and nail you for it if he has to.
And a lot of that has to do with having good timing and precision, right? Connor always says it's not the most powerful man that knocks you out. It's the timing, the precision, and the speed and quickness that does that. So being able to back up, plant that back foot, and then drive forward at that right time, you know, is one of the most devastating ways to really knock someone out. And it's
Oh,
so satisfying too when you have someone charge and charge and charge, and then you just clip them and then you circle your way out. This kind of the way that I've been trying to model my game lately too. I think that's the way that the sport is going a lot, is because these strikers are realizing, you know, I don't have to stand and bang necessarily with these guys who want to put this heavy pressure on. I need to let them come to me and pick and choose my battles.
yeah, 100%. That's another thing I work a lot is like timing drills, hand-eye coordination drills to make sure that it's there. I can adjust to anybody's timing when they're coming in with how fast or whatever speed they're going at.
And I think, you know, the sport has evolved so much, even since, you know, you said you took that 6-year layoff. Now, while you were laid off, were you still training that whole time, or were you just like working, not really thinking about it?
I was training here and there. Maybe like I would train a couple days out of the year, just for fun, and I would obviously be watching fights all the time. I never stopped watching UFC and never lost my passion for it. But yeah, I just kept following the game, and then eventually it just bugged me so much that I had to jump back in.
And was there any one thing, right, that like set you off? That you're like, all right, that's it, I got to get in there.
I would say watching Conor McGregor talk about, his career and going through similar things of like wondering whether or not it was for him, and then going for it and actually making it, and seeing him talk about becoming the champ and then becoming the champ. It made me realize, yep, it is actually possible. I can do it 100%.
And, you know, Connor, his ability to believe something and then make it true, I think had that effect on a lot of young fighters, right? You saw a lot of people either getting back into the gym or start training for the first time just based on interviews that he's doing, saying, I just believed in myself over and over and over again. Do you do any kind of mental drills, or some guys meditate, some guys do like vision boards, anything like that? Is there anything like that that you're doing to keep yourself mentally crisp and sharp and keep those goals in front of you?
Oh yeah. Just I'll go as weird as I have to. I'll repeat a mantra every single day. I visualize every single day, like literally just sit there with my eyes shut and just see myself, see how the fight's going, see myself win and get my hand raised, and meditating. So kind of all of the above. And then before the fight, when I'm in the locker room, I do a lot of mental preparation.
And how are you in the locker room in terms of just your, I guess, emotions? Are you nervous? Are you laid back and relaxed? I know, every single person has kind of a different, method to their madness back there. Just want to get a little insight into, what's going through your head before you make that walk.
I would say, yeah, I get pretty nervous. I get a little tense. I try to relax as much as I can, but I don't try to like actively calm myself down. I just kind of let whatever I'm feeling, I let myself feel it. And when it's time to go, I get myself up and get my nervous system ramped up and get my mind ramped up.
And then when you are about to make that walk, right, and then your song hits, you start going down. At what point are you like, all right, it's time to fight, and then that, because everybody has it where that nervous energy kind of wears off. Do you need to get hit in the face first, or you hear the door slam behind you and you're like, all right, it's on?
I feel like every fight, it hits me at a different time. Sometimes it's as soon as I hear my music. Sometimes it's right when I step in the cage. And sometimes it is right when I take that first shot.
And
so
then,
it really kind of depends, but
I think
a nice.
that makes sense based on, the atmosphere and, who's in the crowd, or who you're fighting, or, how your training camp went. I know some camps I would be walking down the ramp and I'd be like, oh, did I put enough road work in, or did I do this or did I do that? And like all these things are circling through your head, but you can't think about that then once the fight starts. So it's kind of a fun mental gymnastics, I think, that we play with ourselves all the time. And it's interesting to see how different people handle it, because everybody is so individual in the way that they handle this pretty crazy sport that we're in.
Yeah, for sure. That's one of my favorite parts of fighting, is just like the whole ride mentally and emotionally. And it's almost like a drug. It's like a high kind of that you just can't stop chasing.
That win is the best feeling in the world too, isn't it?
Yeah. Sure.
So before I let you go here, I just wanted to get some insight into, I guess, your plans moving forward. I know you said you were going to, make your pro debut there in May, and obviously that fell through. Now, are you in pretty constant contact here with the CFFC? Are you aware if they have any fight cards coming up, or what their plans are moving forward, or, when you could possibly make that walk again to the cage and make your pro debut?
I haven't talked to anybody from CFFC, but I have heard that they were considering maybe doing an event soon. That's what my coach, Jonathan Webbs, told me. He's kind of friends with all of those guys, so he keeps me in the loop. But right now, I'm just waiting for a call, and I'll be willing to jump on whenever I'm in shape and ready to go.
Awesome. Tommy, it was a pleasure hanging out, getting to chat with you today, get a little insight into your mind and your training methods. I hope to make my way down there, train with all you guys down at Web Fitness whenever this passes. And, we'll see you soon.
All right, man. Thanks for the talk. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you. See you then.
All right, later.
See ya.